Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Sports Talk. My name is JR, and today we are going to be looking at Week 3 from college football. So to start things out, I want to talk about Michigan State defeating Air Force 35-21. Coming off a big win versus Oregon the previous week, I was interested to see how they would respond against a team like Air Force. A lot of teams would come off a big win like that and come in and not give a full effort, but Michigan State did play very well, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Connor Cook throwing 15 for 23, 247 yards and 4 touchdowns. Aaron Burbridge, 8 receptions, 156 yards and 3 touchdowns. So they've really opened up their offense from more of a run-heavy offense to it's a lot more balanced now with Connor Cook under center. I'm interested to see if they're going to continue that after Connor Cook leaves. I think it's done great things for their offense, and it's making them a much better team. They're much better when they're balanced, and I think they're a big threat to get into the playoff this season. I didn't think they would be, but after seeing them for the first few weeks, I think that the more they improve, they're going to be one of the best teams in the country. They already are. I had questions about their defense after their coordinator, Pat Narduzzi, left for Pittsburgh, of whether or not their defense would be as good. And when I watched them play Oregon, they played great. They had like 2 goal line stands and just very, very great defense. Any defense is going to give up some points to Oregon. Oregon is arguably the best offense in college football, but they didn't give up a ton, only 28, so very impressed with that performance. And like I said, I think this team can go all the way this year. We'll just have to wait it out and see. Next, I want to talk about LSU defeating Auburn 45-21. You can't talk about this game without talking about Leonard Fournette for LSU. 19 carries, 228 yards, and 3 touchdowns. In the midweek, Auburn was talking about how it won't be difficult to stop Leonard Fournette, and then he goes out there and dominates their defense. Auburn has not looked good at all this season. In their first game, for the first little bit, they looked pretty good. But after that, they've just been not good at all, and they do not look like a top 25 team. I said in my last videos that I thought that they were, but after this game, they have a lot to prove, and they're going to sit their starting quarterback Jeremy Johnson this week so they can start Sean White, which is an interesting move, but I think it's the right move. So you've given Jeremy Johnson 3 weeks to show what he's got, and the team barely won their first game after being up pretty decently. Then in week 2, they almost lost to an FCS school, and then you go to LSU and get blown out. So I do think this is the best move for them, and I think will improve, but they are not as good as I figured they would be going into this season. And I also want to talk about Ohio State defeating Northern Illinois 20-13. Ohio State has struggled so much offensively this year, and it was very unexpected for me. I figured that with all the talent they had coming back, I mean, they hardly lost anyone to the pros or anything. So I figured with all the talent coming back, this would be the best team in the country, right? Well, the defense, they've improved so much from last year. They are very impressive to watch. The offense is not giving them much help, though. The defense scored as many touchdowns as the offense did in this game, and to me, that's bad. That's terrible. You're the number 1 team in the country. You're a 34.5-point favorite at home, and you beat Northern Illinois, an unranked MAC team, by 7 points. Northern Illinois is a good team, and they did play very good. But Ohio State should have dominated them because they're supposedly the number 1 team in the country, and I don't think they are. I don't think they're playing like it. I think there are quite a few teams that could take that number 1 spot from Ohio State because they're just a much better teams. So if they continue to play like this, I don't see them staying at number 1. You have JT Barrett, who's 11 for 19, 97 yards, 1 touchdown, and interception. Cardell Jones, 4 for 9, 36 yards, and 2 interceptions. So Cardell Jones has had 3 games to be the starter and to show what he's got, and so far he has not showed what he showed at the last 3 games of last season. So I think Barrett, I said this in my Big Ten preview, I said I thought Barrett was going to get the job. Well, I think Barrett is definitely going to get the job now because neither of them are playing great. Neither one of them have made like any highlight plays or anything, but Barrett seems to be just a little bit better. So I think if they can pick one guy and stick with him, they're going to be a lot better. But it all starts with the offensive line. The offensive line's not playing very good either, so they gotta get their offense worked out if they're going to even compete for a playoff position. So now I want to talk about Notre Dame defeating Georgia Tech 30-22. Now I was actually kind of surprised. I kind of thought Georgia Tech would win after Notre Dame lost their starting quarterback to an injury, but Deshaun Kaiser threw 21 for 30, 242 yards, and a score. So not a bad game for him, and it's going to be interesting to see if Notre Dame can keep this up without their starting quarterback. But Kaiser does not look too bad. So I think it's all about if they can just continue to fight through and not get many more injuries. They've already lost a couple players to injuries, and so it's really all going to depend on how they handle this. They still look good. They look good without their starting quarterback, and for being his first start of the season against a good team like Georgia Tech, they don't look bad. So I'm going to be interested to see 3 pretty difficult games left on their schedule: at Clemson versus USC and at Stanford. So that's really going to be a big test for them. Whether or not they're going to be able to beat those teams, I don't know. I think they're going to be able to definitely compete in all those games. But Stanford showing a lot of talent, beating USC. Clemson didn't play as well this week, but I think they are a very good team. And USC coming off that loss to Stanford, so they're all going to be tough games. Notre Dame is going to compete in all of those games, but whether or not they win, I don't know. I almost don't see this team getting in there because of the schedule they have left, but they might just surprise me and get in anyways. Now I just mentioned this a minute ago. Stanford upsetting number 6 USC 41-31. Big shocker to me. I absolutely was not expecting that. I thought that people were out of their mind when some people picked that Stanford was going to win, but Stanford came out and they played really good. I watched USC's first drive, and I'm like, yeah, they're just going to run away with this game. But give Stanford a lot of credit. They hung in there and they played great. Kevin Hogan, 18 for 23, 279 yards and 2 touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey, 26 carries and 115 yards. So they lit up that USC defense, and they just played great. So I think that week 1 game against Northwestern, it surprised everyone because this is the team they're used to seeing. So I think they're getting back on track, and I think Northwestern is a whole nother story, but Stanford is one of the better teams in the Pac-12, and they're going to compete for Pac-12 title this season. So this just made a statement that just because they lost to Northwestern doesn't mean they're a bad team. So I think they are definitely showing that they're a very good team, a top 25 team even. So I'm interested to see how they go about after this win. And then now, the game of the day, number 15 Ole Miss defeating number 2 Alabama in Alabama. Chad Kelly, 18 for 33, 341 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was really the star of that offense. I mean, the whole team played great. So I mean, I can't really say that he was the star because the offensive line played great, the receivers played great. I mean, the defense was great. I was very impressed with what I saw there. I've heard a lot of things about Ole Miss this season, and I haven't really had the chance to see them. But after watching that game, I mean, I'm a believer in this team, and they are absolutely, in my opinion, they are definitely a top 5 team. Alabama, they didn't play bad, but their offense isn't getting it done, so they have a lot of work they need to do to take care of that offense. I mean, you have Derrick Henry. He's playing great. You got to find your quarterback though, and I think they're going to go with Jake Coker after they pulled Cooper Bateman out. So I do think Ole Miss is a fantastic team. I love what Hugh Freeze has done. I did not think they were going to be this good. Even in my SEC preview, I did not have them. I had them like close to last in their division, if not last. But Chad Kelly has done great things. He has a great arm. He is a great runner, and he's just a great addition to this team. This team is a huge competitor for a playoff spot this season if they can just keep winning, playing. And I really liked what I saw from this team. And now this week's polls, they moved Michigan State from number 4, leapfrogged TCU. Now Michigan State is in that number 2 spot. Ohio State remains in the number 1 spot. Ole Miss jumped TCU also into number 3, and TCU sits at 4. Followed by Baylor, and then Notre Dame, and Georgia, and then LSU in the 8. And then I think UCLA's 9 and Florida State's 10. So I think that's the top 10 of this week's polls. I do not see Ohio State. I see the other 3, but I do not see Ohio State in the top 4. Not until they get their offense fixed up. So in my top 4, I have Ole Miss as number 1. They played excellent. I was super impressed. What's going to be interesting to see is how they respond to a win in a game like Alabama. Are they going to come out and play just as well as they did in their first few games, or are they going to maybe not play so well and maybe even lose, depending on who they're playing? But according to what I saw last week, they are my number 1 team, and then followed by Michigan State, TCU, and then Georgia in my 4th spot. I think Georgia has come along very well. They have Nick Chubb, who's a big contender in the Heisman race. Grayson Lambert's last game against South Carolina, 24 for 25, 330 yards and 3 touchdowns. Excellent game for him. So Georgia is playing at a very high level right now. And TCU, as advertised, their offense is great. After that Week 1 win at Minnesota, they have gotten together a lot. The defense last game didn't look too good against SMU, but I don't think it's too much of a concern for this team if their offense can just continue to keep playing. But Ohio State, I don't see them in the top 5. I think they're more maybe an 8 or 9 until they get their offense fixed. If their offense get fixed, then yeah, I think they're a top 5 team. But especially so far, they're not a number 1 team. I think they're very overrated as of this point. So that about wraps this video up, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy this, please like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Until then, this is Sports Talk, heading out.